Hey guys, I've gotten a lot of questions in the past on how to rope solo. How do I rope solo? And there are a lot of different methods to do it, a lot of different things. I'm not going to cover those in today's video. I'm just going to show you how I do it. And a few things you're going to need to do a rope solo, at least the way I do it. I have a Gri Gri 2, but you can use a Gri Gri 1 or 2. I think you can use a plus as well. I haven't really looked into that. And for my methodology, I like to use a micro traction to deal with the excess rope as I'm climbing. Other than that, you shouldn't need anything more than your standard rack, what you would normally use for either sport or trad. You just add really the micro traction and some quick links. I have 2 of them, and the Gri Gri, you can modify it. I have modified mine. It's not necessary. I like it. I use it, but also my system's constantly evolving and changing. I find things I like to do differently as I do more rope soloing, and I've made small adjustments over time and make things more efficient or just maybe even more safe. So to get started out, really, once you have all your devices, all your gear that you need, is the first thing you want to do is you want to just take your rope and you want to tie a big old knot in the end of the rope. Same idea as when you're rappelling. You want to knot in the end, that way you don't come off the end. So go ahead, throw that in. I'm not going to tie that to myself. If I was doing a multi-pitch, I probably would. It just kind of changes depending on the route, and at this point I'm going to start flaking the rope. And I know this route that I have right behind me is around 100 feet. So I'm going to wait till I get about middle of the rope before I start adding my backup knots. I like to use slip knots in the rope. And give me just a minute as I go through this. And I'm kind of coming up on the middle of the rope now. And I'm going to go ahead and add a slip knot. Now you need to make sure you tie the slip knot correctly. And by correctly, I mean which side of the rope you will pull on of that knot in the middle here to release the knot. So a slip knot is very simple. You make a loop, and then I take the dead end of the rope, what would normally be the Blair's end of the rope over here. I'm going to take a bite of rope, and not quite that big, and I'm going to put it through here, pull that knot tight, cinch it down a little bit, and that's my slip knot. So the reason for this is, in the event if I fell, if the Gri Gri did not lock down and stop me from falling, I want a knot that is going to jam up against the micro and the Gri Gri and stop me from falling so I don't deck and don't hit the ground. Now, I'm going to be climbing on this end. My Gri Gri is going to be right on this side of the knot. This is extra rope on the ground. Gri Gri's on this side, anchor, quick draws, all that. If my Gri Gri were to fail and I slide down the rope all the way to that knot, I want to hit that knot, and I want it tied in a way where I pull on this end and that knot doesn't come undone. Now if I grab the opposing end and pull, you see it slides, 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 and pops loose. That's why you need to tie it the correct way. So I put that in there, and the nice thing about the reason I use slip knots is I can undo the knot one-handed. That's why I don't do like a figure 8 on a bite or something like that, is that would be really difficult to untie one-handed. So I stick with the slip knots. Once it slides up to my micro traction, I can take one hand and I can pop that knot out with one hand, which I'll demonstrate as I go. But so I got my first knot. I'm gonna go, and I don't know, 2 to 4 arm lengths. It's kind of what I go for. At this point in the rope, I'm gonna be pretty high up on the wall still, so I might space them out a little bit. Cinch that down. 1, 2, 3, 4. I still have a lot of rope over there. Tie another slip knot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tie another slip knot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, I'm starting to get towards the other end of the rope, so I might put those knots a little bit closer together. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. And then I'm looking at the end of the rope right there. Pull the end of the rope to me. Now with this end of the rope, I'm going to tie myself a little bit of a larger figure 8 on a bite. Make sure you dress it. Make sure it's clean. It's a good knot, good solid knot. There's no one here to check what you do. everything you do, you need to do right. You need to double check it, triple check it, because there's no one there to tell you, hey man, you missed a thing, you tied your knot wrong, you didn't lock that carabiner. It is up to you. Take care of yourself. If you get hurt, there's probably no one else here. There's a reason you're rope soloing. If there are other people here, you'd probably get them to bite you. So once I have that figure 8 on a bite, I take my malleon. You can use a quick draw, but if you're going to use a quick draw, make sure it has that little tongue at the bottom, or bottom where the rope is. That way the rope can't slide up and get everything cross-loaded. So I have that prepped. I'm going to set that, I guess, over here. Try to keep it in view of the camera. Now I'm going to take my Gri Gri. And this is where the two malleons come in. You do not want to use quick draws. You do not want to use locking carabiners too much. You want to really stick to malleons for these two. That point and this point primarily. They're just stronger than a Gri Gri, and less prone. They're stronger than a carabiner and less prone to failure. They can still fail, but it's very difficult to break a malleon opposed to a carabiner. Now, when you put the rope in the Gri Gri, what would be the first bolt, the figure 8 on a bite with the malleon, that is going to be the climber's side of the Gri Gri. Do not do it the other way around. All your dead rope, your belayer's end of the rope is over here. It's the hand, the malleon to the first bolt. Your anchor is the climber. Once I have that on there, I'll take this malleon and I will connect it to my harness. That is on there. Now I will take my micro traction and I will clip it to the other end of the rope. Take a minute while you're on the ground, before you're on the wall, check it, make sure that you can pull slack through it. If you can't, it's backwards. And I will take that, and I've been kind of experimenting with this, but I feel like I typically like it right here, kind of finicky. That's why my system's evolving, because I find little things I can change to make things better. So right now, if I were to yank on this end, that knot's not going to pop. But once I'm on the wall and I'm hanging off a jug, a cramp, whatever it is, I can one-handed take the excess rope, grab down here, and I can pull one-handed to release that knot. And you make sure, like earlier I showed you, you cinch them down a little bit, so when the weight of the rope is all hanging on these knots, it doesn't pop them out. So I'm going to put that knot back in. There we go. So the only thing I do different, which it's kind of, you may like it, you may not like it, something I like to do is I take a sling, shoulder length sling, tie, because of my modified Gri Gri, I tie a small knot in it. I found that shortens it up just the about right amount for my height, my body size, and doesn't really matter what kind of carabiner you use. I should just use a standard wire gate non-locker, and I will now clip it to there. And you can rotate the Gri Gri handle out or in. It's kind of a preference. I like in, like I would normally use it. I think I like it just because that's what I'm used to. Now, the reason I have this modified system, which all it is a hole drilled in the Gri Gri right here with a piece of paracord on it. I put that on. It holds the Gri Gri up and out of the way of all of this mess. Makes it where I can quickly look down. I can see the entire system I can see what's going on. Nothing's laying on top of anything, and I can quickly see, oh, this is the end I clip to the wall. Oh, this end, because they're both going to be hanging down as you're lead climbing. So having things kind of separated a little bit helps you see this is the end that goes to the wall, this is the end that is the dead end of the rope. You don't want to clip that to the wall. I think that's kind of self-explanatory for anyone watching this video at this point. So that keeps everything nice, neat, tidy, and out of the way. At this point, I'll put my helmet on, I'll rack up. I'm just doing a sport route, I'll rack up with some quick draws. I'll take this malleon and I'll put it front and center, because as soon as I get to that first bolt, that is going to go on. And I'm going to lock it down. So I want that up in the front. That's the first thing I'm going to need. Maybe make some adjustments to this whole system. Get the rope where it's not going to be tripping me up. There it is. It's kind of out of the way at this point. Now I'll put my shoes on, all that stuff, and then we'll get back started once I'm on the wall. So now we're on the wall. I got my rope flaked. I'm up here just about at the first bolt. I got everything set and ready to go. I got to do this one move, stand up, and luckily it's slab, so I can really just rely on my feet to hold me here while I get this set. That is now set. I'll take a minute, I'll yank on this end of the rope, make sure the Gri Gri engages like it's supposed to, pull up a little bit of slack on the micro traction, and scout out my next few moves and where my next bolt is. So as of right now, my waist, my Gri Gri is below the bolt. If I fall, I'm going to take a factor 1 fall. Something you need to keep in mind as you climb, once your waist gets above that bolt, you're looking at taking a factor 2 fall. Factor 2 falls are not fun. You don't want to do that. So even though I'm locked into this bolt and I'm safe now, as soon as I start climbing above it, I need to be very mindful that any fall above that bolt before I clip the next bolt will be a factor 2 fall. So we're going to move on, and I think I'll just start recording again once I get up to the next bolt. So we have made it from the first bolt, which is down there, up to the second bolt. And don't worry, I'm going to go through, once I clip this, kind of how you actually climb with this system. So keep in mind, you are your own belayer. You need to keep up with everything. You need to keep track of everything. You need to make sure you're clipping the correct rope to the bolts. I can see now, looking at this, I'm coming off the first bolt up here to the second bolt. Now I do not typically back up on this bolt. A lot of people do. That way things are redundant. I feel plenty safe enough with just the one bolt as an anchor, and I'll go with that. So now I will start climbing up this, and at this point I should not have to really worry about any factor 2 falls now that I am on the second bolt. Any fall should be a factor 1. And right here is a good thing to show. I'm climbing and I have no slack. I cannot move up anymore at this point. I now have to pull rope through the micro, and the point of the micro is to get the weight. The point of the micro is to get the weight off the Gri Gri. So as you climb, the rope just glides through the Gri Gri. And I'm at one of my backup knots. I now can take one hand, pop that off, and I'll pull enough slack to where I know I can at least make it to a good stance. You don't want to get caught in the middle of a move, not being able to move up and in a bad position. So now I have a couple feet of slack between my micro and my Gri Gri. I should be able to now freely move. And the Gri Gri, as long as I'm careful with everything, should just automatically feed. And it is as I climb. Thorn. As I climb, the rope just glides through the Gri Gri. Glides through the Gri Gri. Need to be careful. Oop, oh no, I'm in the middle of a move. Not quite at a good stance. And I've run out of slack. That's what you need to watch out for. You need to keep that in mind. You need to be looking ahead, not just at the route, but at the blade that you're giving yourself. Luckily, it's a pretty easy route, so that's okay. All right, I'm gonna move up one more move. Running out of slack again. Let's go ahead and pull up some rope. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it all the way up to that stopper knot. I can now add a quick draw right there. Be mindful, I got what looks like 4 ropes hanging here. I have the 2 sides of this rope hanging, I have this rope and this rope. So when I go to clip the rope to this anchor, I need to be paying attention, need to look at it. If I need to, I'll pull the rope away from the wall a little bit. Oh look, that's got nothing attached to it down there. So I know this one coming out of the bottom of the Gri Gri clips to this bolt right here. And before I move, because I was getting ready to move, see, I don't really have much slack, but part of that is because the rope down there, the weight of the rope is starting to pull itself down. It's starting to pile up and it's hang below that first bolt. So now I have only about a foot. That's not too bad, but if you're not paying attention, you could quickly get 5, 8, 10 feet of slack sitting on the ground, and then if you fall, that's the additional 8, 5, 10 feet of slack you're gonna fall, or distance. So what I like to do, which I can do one-handed, let me move the camera so maybe it sees this a little bit better. I'll pull up the slack, and different people do different things. I might need to use my mouth. I have another slip knot. Could have done that 2 hands. I'm at a good stance, but you need to be able to do it one-handed, especially if you're gonna be pushing grades. So I now have a slip knot on that, and that's holding the rope where there's like very minimal slack in the system. So here we go. We're coming up to the next bolt. I got that quick draw on. All right, and you know what? I'm on a good stance. I'm just gonna go ahead and use 2 hands. But if you're gonna be pushing grades, you need to be able to do this one-handed. You need to be able to do it one-handed well. So I have a slip knot down there, and I was only 1, so it's only adding a few inches of slack to the system. But if you start having 3, 4, 5 of them, you might start adding quite a lot of slack. The cool thing about that slip knot is I can yank up, it pop the slip knot out. I can pull the rope, not tight, leave it snug, that way if you fall, it's not pre-stretched. You just don't want slack, you just don't want excess rope. So slip knot on there, and that does a good job of holding the rope from going through. At this point, I will go in direct to one of the bolts, the anchor, whatever we have. And for the sake of this video, we are gonna pretend these are mussy hooks. So let me go ahead, and I don't need this chest harness anymore. I can take that off. And let's make sure we clip into this. You need to pay attention. We're gonna clip in using the correct strand of the rope. There we go, that'll work. We're gonna make sure we go on the climber side. Just like we did all the way up, we're gonna use this side and not this side to clip. And if we're worried about it, we'll just pull up some slack while we're still in direct. We'll weight it, make sure it holds. All right, that seems to do what it's supposed to do. And at this point, I'll clean off my indirect, or my direct, however you want to say it, however you're supposed to say it. Get on the Gri Gri. And this is where that additional or large loop on the anchor is going to come in handy. Let's get this out of the way. All right, check it again, make sure. This also works if you're doing a hang and you're not on a slab. And we're gonna rappel down, and look, there's one of our stopper nuts. At this point, I have cleaned, make sure you can see that I've cleaned the entire route. I'm now at my anchor right here. This is the last piece, and I could just lower all the way to the ground, but then I would have to climb up here and pull this off and down climb. And especially on a route like this, it's a long way to fall. And we want to keep this safe, and we want to mitigate risk. So I'm gonna get back up a little bit to this. And I'm gonna take this right here. I'm gonna clip it to that large loop I tied earlier. And then I'm gonna pull it tight, all the way tight to my harness. And then make sure that's locked. I'm gonna start getting my weight on this and moving the weight off of this. And if I hug tight to the wall, there's barely any pressure on this right now. I can very easily, especially since it's a big loop and there's a lot of deflection in that rope, pop that off. Remember, that's locked right there. And at this point, I can, if I can push that out of the way, I can just rappel. And I'm essentially just lowering myself at this point. Remember, we had a knot in the rope at the very beginning, so I'm not worried about wrapping off the end of my rope. Going down, and bam! That is it. We have finished the route. We've cleaned it, climbed it, we've cleaned it, we've done everything. All you gotta do now is take this knot out and pull the rope down. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that made sense to you guys. I tried to get all the information right. Now, this was just how I rope solo. There's a lot of different ways to do it. There are Facebook pages dedicated to it. There's forums. I'm going to try to link. There's another YouTuber out there that has an amazing PDF that has tons of colored pictures, lots of text with very in-depth descriptions, and gets in all to the nitty-gritty of the systems. And he also shows many different systems and how, like, he could take my system and he could make adjustments to it to make it different. And not necessarily one's better than the other. Just certain systems work better in certain situations. Some are more redundant but less efficient. Some more efficient, less redundant. So it's just kind of like whatever you're comfortable with. Best advice I can have is just pick a system, practice it, get to where you can do it without really thinking, and you can expect what's coming up. As you climb, you're expecting when you're going to need to add ropes to the system, what kind of moves may lock, say a Gri Gri down, like if you're high stepping, it might bunch it up, things like that. And do all that on easy routes. Like I said, don't do that on a hard route, something near your limit. Do that on something easy. So you're not thinking about how to get up the route, you're just thinking how to belay yourself up the route. Now, I know I said I was going to do bi-weekly videos. I'm still pushing to do 2 videos a month, but me and my wife Kat are getting ready to go out west for 2 weeks and do a lot of climbing. And as much as I'd like to take a day in the van and edit a video and put it out there, I think I'd rather use my time out there to climb and then wait to edit until I get home and do that at the house. So I'm going to get a lot of footage. I should have a pretty good back catalog of videos to put out there. This is something I just kind of thought of, and I was like, I need to get a video out, so I ran out here and did it. But yep, it might be 2nd week of September before you see another video, but I will definitely do 2 next month for sure, and I think this will make 2 for this month. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. Comment down below on what you think and how you might do things differently. You have a good one. Bye.